Welcome back. Andrew, tell me about life growing up in Proserpine. What do you remember about being a child up in North Queensland? Beautiful place to grow up.
It's a great place to grow up, and in many ways I sort of get a bit of urban dad guilt now and then. And
Urban dad guilt?
Well, being in Proserpine meant you had a push bike and you went wherever you want, and it was home by sundown, and those were the rules. And of course, going down to the beach was sort of 20 minutes away, and holidays were spent down there, and the whole sort of extended family would stay in the one house through Christmas time, and those are always really good memories growing up. And I've stayed pretty close to all of my cousins because of spending that time together. And many of them are in Brisbane now, all sort of making their own way as well and having kids. So I think being around a big extended family was a real privilege for a way to grow up. I suppose the other thing that you really remember about Proserpine in the time that I grew up was cane fires, which are pretty spectacular. Don't really happen much anymore.
Yeah,
but
you don't see them too often.
there was a landlocked cane farm at the end of our street, and so when they burned it, it was sort of the once in a year big event, and everyone would be out, and the bagasse would end up on everything, of course. But the really big entertainment was as they lit the fire, the snakes and bandicoots that came running out of the cane fires always attracted a crowd.
Well, a pretty amazing playground to have as a child growing up.
Yeah, of course. And, the freedom that was around to, get on the bike and go uptown or go down to the pool or do whatever was, a great level of personal freedom that lots of kids don't get, and as I said, it's the sort of thing that you reflect upon with my own kids. They love going up there, so we spend a bit of time there each year, and they just completely love the ability to be open and run around and enjoy the sort of everything it has to offer, really.
Your mum and dad still live in Proserpine?
Yeah, they do. They're still in the same house next to the school. So mum's a teacher at the school and dad's a bus driver and bus mechanic. So they're still in the same spot. My sister's in Townsville now, but my brother's down here as well.
So your family have had a fairly acute involvement in their local community as well?
Yeah, I think that ultimately for us as a family, my grandfather was involved in things in the town, in legacy and other projects in and around the town. And I think being part of a community is something that I've always valued, and that's why for me politics is the natural extension of that. Life doesn't start at your front doorstep. It's what's beyond there. It's not close the gate and go into a cocoon. It's actually the value of being part of a society, being part of a community, having concern for others that I think is at the core of my politics and the core of Labor Party politics as well. The concern for others, not just self, and elevating the community ahead of individual is the intellectual framework, I think, for my own involvement in politics.
You're pretty gifted academically. Your mother and father have a lot of input into your academic experience growing up at school? Your mother doing a lot of extra work with you on the side?
No, she was teaching and raising 3 kids, so she didn't have a lot of time beyond that. But look, I think, some people like and enjoy learning, and the great thing about this job is you get to experience and learn new things all the time, and it's a constant. The brain food in this job is excellent. For the downside of it about media issues and the time it takes, all of that just melts away compared to the main line of brain food that you get by the intellectual nourishment out of doing a job like this.
Jeez.
And the last couple of years, of course, haven't been short on some pretty big macro issues. So.
Yeah. So you still have that voracious thirst for knowledge all the time?
Yeah, except I have had to change my password on my computer sometimes to read for fun, because you kind of miss that when you're under the thumb and only reading for work, which is a big part of the job.
It can be a frustrating aspect of it as well, that the stuff that you do for yourself really needs to be put to the side a lot of the time.
Well, I think because of the stage of life that this has happened, you really want to try and put as much time into your kids, and so the little box that's left for self is kind of quite small. But for me, it's Formula One watching on a Sunday night. So Fraser Ford still exists in the middle of the main street of Proserpine. So that's where I learnt a number of things, including how to swear. And growing up around cars, I've been a tragic petrol head since then. And so, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on a Sunday night when the F1 races are on is actually good me time. The demands are actually a bit low at that time. So I generally try and finish the cabinet bag and reward myself by watching the Grand Prix, but I have to say I generally just end up watching them with my eyes closed and waking up freezing cold on the couch at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, but at least I've had a go.
You've got to try and make the effort, don't you? What's it like going back to Proserpine these days? The old townsfolk, they still remember you as a child growing up, and there's Andrew, who's now the Deputy Premier. How do they react to you?
I don't get back as much as I would like, but for me the good thing about it is it generally means it's a week or two off at Christmas time, and so in fact it's being around a whole heap of old family and friends, and it doesn't matter the job I do, and that's what's really good about it. It's all of that falls away, and you know the one thing I would say is you have to realise that the sharpest critics are always going to be your family. You know, they're the ones who are least shy about putting a view forward. And so I'm from a family of teachers, and it means I've got pretty sharp kitchen table politics when it comes to education.
Has it changed the way they relate to you?
No, I don't think so. And that's a good thing.
I guess you'd hope so. Yeah.
Well, you know, in the end, it's a job, and it's not forever. These things aren't, and you can't define yourself by the job, and you've got to actually know why you're doing it. And for me, you know, I've always been really careful to erect a pretty high barrier around family compared to politics. I understand that people are interested in, you know, if you're the Deputy Premier, then people want to know about your family life. But for me, it's also about trying to keep a fairly clear delineation between the sort of legitimate public question about who are you and where are you from, compared to the fact that this is a job and it's about the job and it's my name on the ballot paper, not theirs.
Yeah. So how do you define yourself if you don't define yourself by the fact that you are Andrew Fraser, the member for Mount Cootha, the Treasurer and the Deputy Premier?
Well, I remember the bloke who got elected, you know, 7 years ago with a head of hair and without kids, and I'd like to go and meet him again at some point in time. I think, you know, one of the challenges in this job is, you know, you sometimes cop a bit about your age, but I kind of think if you've lost your hair, then surely the right to question people about their age falls away. I'm happy to answer questions about being too young as long as I can have my old hairline back.
I can relate to that, strangely.
Thought you might.
Yes. You're watching Meet the Ministers, and we'll be back after the break.